leaders. I'm your coach, Adam. Here to have an honest talk about leadership, the obstacles you might face, and how to refine your leadership skills to help you become the leader I know you are. So let's grab a drink, sit back, relax, and have a chat. Welcome back to the next episode. So to platform off of our discussion about making the right decisions for yourself and your organization, we're going to start talking about goal setting. The thing about making the right decision is it's a hell of a lot easier if you know where you're going. As a coach, one of my biggest goals when you sit down with me is to sort out where the hell are we going? What are we doing? And why are we going there? And as an organization and as a leader, that is single-handedly your biggest task, is to figure out where are you going and why are we doing this? And I've sat down with a number of leaders, and it's always quite interesting because when I sit down with them, we kind of look at their goals, start expanding upon it. And what I always notice is they have way too many goals for their own good. So what I mean by that is I listen to leaders say, I want to make six-figure income. My next goal is to increase productivity of my workers. My next goal is to start hiring quality workers. My next goal is to start fixing up my love life. My next goal is to da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I always listen to them. And I give them this breath of space. And then I say to them, that's awesome, but we only need one goal. 2 tops. And these aren't just small goals. These aren't like, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to pour myself a bowl of cereal, and that's going to be my goal. If I can do that, I'm good to go. No, these goals are going to be big. They're going to be expansive. They're going to be massive. They're going to take a lot of time to accomplish. And that's really where we want to go, is we want to have one big overarching goal, either for your organization, for your group, or for yourself in your personal life. And to give you a really good example of this, I'm going to just chit-chat about my life a little bit and tell you about my goals. So I actually only have 2 goals. Believe it or not. My first goal, my own personal goal, is I would like to find a woman to settle down with. Somebody that I can live the rest of my life with. My second goal is my career goal, my business goal, which is to grow my coaching business. And I know what you're thinking. Cool, these are really vague goals. And they sound vague at first. But what I've done is I've taken these kind of vague, ethereal goals, and I've really specified them. So what I mean by that is, let's take a look at my coaching business. I would like to expand my coaching business and make it a successful coaching business. And what I've done is I've taken that and I've started to expand upon it and say, okay, what is a successful coaching business for myself? What does that look like? And so I've sat down, I've written it all out, and that looks to me like bringing in a 6-figure income, but starting off with $100,000, which is not a whole lot in the coaching world, if you can believe it or not. I know some coaches that make upwards of $250,000, and I know many coaches that charge about $5,000 per month for their services. And in that month, you only actually receive 4 coaching sessions plus 2 phone call conversations. So coaching can get quite expensive. So $100,000 is considered kind of more on that middle low end of coaching. So I'm looking at making $100,000. On top of that, a successful business looks to me like referrals. I'm getting referrals from people that just know me, that have had good experiences with me or have listened to this podcast, like you, kind listeners. If you've been listening and you think I'm a good fit and you referred me out to somebody, I would count that as a success in my goal. And then on top of that, word of mouth. I want to be known. I want to be out there. I want people just to know my name. And so that's kind of where I'm going with my coaching business. And I've started fleshing it more out in more detail. For example, a successful coaching business to me looks like public speaking. One day, or I'm already doing it now, but to do more of public speaking, to get up on stage, to talk to crowds of individuals, to do more educational seminars, to do more workshops, to help the average leader learn more about what they need to do to kind of propel their business forward. So that's really my business goal. And when you start looking and understanding that my goal is to grow my business, things really start setting or falling into place. For example, this podcast. This podcast is 100% feeding into my business goal of having a successful coaching business. Having this podcast is all about driving just improving my reputation and just getting my name out there so people know who I am right off the bat, so I don't have to come into a room and introduce myself. My goal is to eventually walk into a room and people already know who I am. When you also take a look at some of the jobs that I've picked very boring, mundane jobs, and I've stuck it out in very boring, mundane jobs, not because they were exciting, not because they were entertaining, not because they opened doors for my future, but because they were boring and mundane. And as I was growing my coaching business, I needed a mundane life. I needed it to be boring because I was doing a lot in my off time. For example, I had to set up a business. I had to learn about marketing. I had to get coaching hours. I had to fill out registration forms. I have so much to do on the back end that if my job was stressful, if my job was truly exhausting, I just wouldn't have the time nor the energy to kind of help accomplish my goal. So taking this really boring job, which most people criticized me for at the time, was really feeding into my future goal, which was coaching. And this is where I'm going. Another example of this is to kind of get into my personal goal of finding somebody. I'm working out at the gym. I work out at the gym 3 to 4 days a week. Why? Because I'm looking for a partner that is also fit, that also takes care of themselves, and is also a go-getter. So really, things that might seem at first kind of odd or bizarre that I'm doing aren't actually that weird or bizarre in the long run, because they're all feeding into these two goals. Another case in point is ultimately have a successful coaching business feeds into finding that partner, because having a success in coaching business means I have more money. More money means I'm doing more things. I'm going out. I'm learning more. I'm traveling more, which means I'm more likely to find somebody that is going to pique my interest. And it's just about, at that point, just getting the name out there saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody. So that's what I really mean by having one or two goals. Traditionally, for a business, you should only have one, or an organization should only really have one goal. Don't overcomplicate things. Just have one goal. Where are you going? Where do you want to go? And then make a really overarching broad goal. Sit down and flesh out the why. Why is this important? Why do we even care to go there? And an example of this is I have a lot of experience in mental illness and addictions. In mental illness and addictions, it's always interesting because the first step when I deal with somebody that has an addiction issue is not to tell them that they need to get clean and sober. My goal is actually to build rapport with them, to sit down with them and chit-chat with them. And get to know them and for them to get to know me. And by doing that, ultimately what happens is we can start having this dialogue, this interesting conversation. And then as we start having conversations, as we start getting deeper and deeper into their life and kind of where they want to go, what I do then is take a look at addictions and how that's interfering with the goals and where they want to go in life. For example, I worked with a gentleman. He wanted to have what's called a nuclear family. He wanted a white picket fence. He wanted to be a single income earner. He wanted to have a wife. He wanted to have 2 children, and he wanted to have a dog. But he was addicted at the time to meth. But this was his goal. And I sat down with him and I got to know him and we built a lot of rapport. And ultimately, I sat down and I said, cool, so your goal is to have a family and be the sole single income earner. How does meth fit into all of this? Because I know you're spending a lot of money on that. And he said, well, it doesn't. And I said, okay, tell me more. And he started realizing, or coming to the realization himself, that his addiction was actually hampering his life. It was causing a big problem. And so we started hammering out, why this white picket fence, why this family was important to him. And ultimately it was, I want this family because I want children. I want to leave a legacy. I want to be remembered. I want to be loved. And the addiction portion was getting in the way of that. So by hammering out that why, and then hammering out why addiction or his crystal meth addiction was hindering him, we were able to sit down, create a concrete plan on just how we're going to overcome this meth addiction. And then we were able to enact the actions. And he was able to get clean and sober in regards with meth. He did have a relapse here and there, but overall he ended up being quite successful. And he got work. Last time I had chit chat with him, he ended up getting work as a line cook, and he was going back to school. So I was quite proud of him and where he was going. But the problem being is that if I hadn't spent the time getting to know him, figuring out the big overarching goal and looking at the why, he would never have done it. He would never have decided that quitting crystal meth was really the thing that he wanted to do. Because if I just launched into, you gotta quit crystal meth, he would tell me to go fuck myself. Like, let's be honest. He didn't give 2 shits. So that's why it's very important to get into the why of your goal. Like, why are we doing this? Because if we're not getting into the why, the meat and potatoes of why this is important, you're not going to follow through with it. And I guarantee you the people that you're leading, they're not going to follow through with it either. Because you're just going to tell them to do something. They say, cool, whatever, sure, I'll do it. They'll do it to the bare minimum of satisfactions. And then they're just going to walk away from it. But if you're able to hammer out why this is important to you, why this goal is worthy of our time, why should we sacrifice the resources that we are to accomplish this, both personally and professionally, you're going to have huge results. So the first step is to hammer out that big overarching goal. Like, really spend some time looking at it. And if you need help with that, you come talk to me. I'll sit down with you one-on-one and we're going to figure this out together, this big overarching why, either for your organization or for yourself. And then the second part is to sit down and figure out the why. Why is this important to you? Why does the organization give 2 craps about this? Really? And then once we figure out that why, then we can get to what's called sub-goals. So again, by having that big overarching goal, we're going to have a lot of little goals that we're going to have to accomplish. To help expand upon this and help look at these smaller goals, let's actually look at NASA. So on May 25th, 1961, President Kennedy announced that he was going to land a man on the moon. Holy crap. This is the one goal. This is the big overarching goal. We're going to land a man on the moon. And he really talked about the reasons why. And let's be honest, there was a lot of politics involved with communism at the time and trying to beat the Soviets to the moon, as they had yet to beat the Soviets to space or to launch the first person into orbit. Side story on that one. But anyways, he announced, we are going to land a man on the moon. Mind-boggling, honestly. But through that massive goal, all of a sudden they start having all these sub-goals starting to kick into gear, i.e., we need a rocket to get us to the moon. We need to find the right pilots just to pilot our rocket to the moon. We need to find out a landing system to get people onto the moon. We need to figure out how to get them off of the moon. We need to figure out how to return them back to Earth safely. All these goals are smaller sub-goals, all feeding into that primary goal of landing a man on the moon. And that's actually what we want. And a lot of individuals, a lot of leaders, mistaken sub-goals for being the goal. An example of this is I was actually just chit-chatting with a woman who her goal was to start going to the gym. It sounds easy enough. I just want to go to the gym. I want to get fit. And when I started chit-chatting with her, I asked her, well, why do you want to get fit? Like, what does being fit give you? And she said, well, it gives me confidence. I said, okay, well, tell me who you are with more confidence. And she said, well, I'm somebody that can talk to men a lot easier. I said, interesting. Tell me more. It turns out going to the gym and getting fit was not the goal. It was actually a sub-goal. The main goal for her was to find a husband. And that's a different kettle of fish. Or to bring this into an organizational kind of roundabout way, I've seen organizations where they sit down and they say to them, or they say, our goal is to increase or decrease wait times. Okay, tell me more. And they've said, because again, I come from a medical background and I've heard these conversations time and time again. They say, our goal is to decrease wait times. I say, okay, why? Why are we doing this? And they said, because our wait times are over an hour, our patients are getting unhappy with that. We need to decrease the wait times. What was interesting was this was actually a sub-goal. This was not the goal. The goal, if we looked at it, was to provide quality patient care and to give care to patients that no other institution could provide. That's what we wanted to do. But they said we wanted to reduce wait times. And it was interesting in this conversation because they were so focused on wait times that they lost sight of this idea that they needed to take care of their patients. That's really what they wanted to do. And it had this knock-on effect so their idea to reduce wait times was to reduce the visits doctors had with patients from an hour to 30 minutes. Well, they halved the time. And now the patients spent less time with the physician, and the physician starts seeing more patients, which sounds good on paper. In practice, not so good, because what ended up happening is we had overworked physicians who didn't have the time to see our clients or patients, which meant that they were not getting to the root of the problem for each patient, which ultimately meant that issues went unresolved and our patients became unhappy with the organization. All because they focused too much on a sub-goal and not enough on the overarching goal, which was, again, to increase patient happiness, satisfaction, if you will. And so don't get the two confused. Don't never get them mixed up. And sometimes some sub-goals will run contradictory to your primary goal. But always remember, if a sub-goal is running contradictory to your primary goal, then get rid of it. It doesn't matter. Just don't be afraid to just throw it away. So again, we're going to have these big overarching goals. And by having these big overarching goals, we're going to have these smaller goals that we're going to have to accomplish. Think of them as the big goal, the one goal that we have being a massive mountain. And these smaller little sub-goals are just the steps that we're going to need to climb this mountain. In every organization, it's the same thing. We always need that mountain to climb, but we need the smaller goals being the steps to kind of get up there. So let's move down into a little bit about how do you even set a goal? For a lot of individuals, it's SMART goals. You guys have probably heard this. If you haven't, you will. It's everywhere. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. Specific being, what exactly are we accomplishing? Measurable, how are you going to measure the success or failure of your goal? Achievable, what can I realistically accomplish? Can I realistically accomplish this goal? Relevant, does this goal match our needs? Timely, when do you exactly want to accomplish this goal? Let's put a time measurement in it. SMART goals tend to be really useful for sub-goals, kind of creating those measurement sticks to help us move from one goal to the next goal to the next goal to the next goal. Sometimes they don't work as well for our big overarching one goal that we're going to kind of get to. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's stick with SMART for right now. So SMART is good for those smaller sub goals, but we can also use it for our main goal, i.e., you know what, I want to be a successful coach. Specific. Let's be specific on this. I want to be a successful coach that's making $100,000 a year. I will know if I'm successful or not if I am making that amount of money within the next 2 to 3 years. Period. Is this achievable? Yes, it's 100% achievable. If I could literally start charging my clientele $5,000 per session, and I could easily achieve that, which I know some coaches do indeed charge. Tony Robbins, I'm looking at you. And then relevant. Does this goal match my needs? Yes, of course it does. It's my career. It's really what I want to do and where I want to go. Timely. When do I exactly want to accomplish this? In 2 to 3 years. Done. So that's really kind of a SMART goal being our one goal. But then there's also goals such as infinite goals, as they were. These are goals that are not SMART in any way, shape, or form. They are convoluted. There's no such thing as a winner. There's only losers in them. They're very vague. Players are going to drop in and out of the game, and they're just bottomless resources. And a lot of leaders, interestingly enough, fall for the infinite game trap. And so let's get into an infinite goal. So an infinite goal for an organization would be, we are going to be the best consulting company in the entire world. Like, how do you even measure that? Like, what does it mean to be the best consulting company? And even if you could measure it, for how long do you want to be the most amazing consulting company? So see how it starts becoming really infinite and just carrying on indefinitely. Because let's be honest, if you wanted to be the best consulting company, like, you're going to be doing that forever. And consulting companies are going to start popping up and trying to be better than you. So again, these are the players coming into the game. And then, I mean, some of them are going to go bankrupt, some of them are going to close, so they're going to drop out of the game. There's no time limit on this. This is a goal that you're going to have to conquer forever. And you're going to have to figure out some measuring stick for this goal, because that's a very vague goal, to be the best consulting company. What does the best consulting company even mean for you? So as a coach, one of my big things, if I ever receive this goal, would be to sit down and say, cool, what is the best? What does it mean to be the best? You tell me what you think it means. You tell me if this is something that you think is achievable. And if it is achievable, for how long is it achievable for? Because let's be honest, you can start off as the best consulting company, let's say next year, but then the year after that, things might fall apart because there might be better competition down the road kind of coming in and stealing your thunder. So that's always what's interesting about infinite goals, or as Simon Sinek in his book The Infinite Game pointed out, they just go on forever. Like, they're interesting because they don't have a clear endpoint. And so why this is very important for you as a leader is, if you're going to make a goal that is part of an infinite game or an infinite goal, just be aware that there's no end to this goal. It will never be completed. And not to get frustrated by that, but it is going to be a very different game that you're playing than if you go with a SMART goal. And for example, with NASA, it's a smart goal. They know what they're getting themselves into. It's timely, it's measurable, specific. They know the win-loss conditions. With infinite games, there's just none. Just be careful in that too. Be aware of what you're getting into. Another example of infinite goals would be mission statements. Mission statements are fabulous at spotting out infinite goals, because let's be honest, a lot of them will tell you, we promote to strive excellence within our company now and around the world. It's like, cool. What is excellence? How long are you striving for excellence? How do you even measure that? Like, there's so many questions that come to mind when I hear those mission statements, but that's a tangent for another day. So to kind of wrap up goal setting for yourself and for your organization is, one, stop giving so many goals. Stop having them. It really annoys me when I chit chat with people and they just have a million goals. Have one goal, 2 tops. Make them big, overarching, really expansive goals. And then sit down and explore the why of that goal. Why is this important? Why do you care about it? Why should I care about it? Why should anybody give 2 shits about this goal? And then from there, break that goal down into smaller sub-goals that are going to help propel you into that big overarching branch goal. So, I hope to see you guys in the next episode, and I shall bug you later. Cheers. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, give it a like, and share it with a friend. And if you're ready to take the next leap and improve your leadership skills, head over to www.seedingthelead.com and book your free coaching session today.